list now that I am
Yeah,
like looking at.
there's another one. Like there's a sister one to Mayhem that's happening soon, I think. Um, that's like more kind of RPG focused. And then there's the one in the ski resort in Vermont called Carnage, like also in November. There's a ton of and like at one of my games at Gen Con, I saw a guy had like a New Hampshire sticker on it. He had a British accent and he said he was from like Pittsburgh. I'm like, why do you have a New Hampshire sticker? He's like, oh, I used to live in Portsmouth. This is from a con in I think Nashua, and it's in a couple of months if you want to check it out. I'm like, maybe I will, right? Like all these like
Yeah.
tiny, like 100, 200 person cons. Like I went to one in
Mm.
oh, what's the city that Rachel's dad used to live in? Uh
Bangor or
Bangor, yeah.
Bangor?
Yeah, Bangor.
Bangor is the Pennsylvania version. Bangor is the main version.
Yeah, Bangor. I drove up to Bangor for like this tiny little tabletop convention like 5 years ago, and it was fine. But it was there. It's I guess you just need like a hotel with a an unbooked conference room. Um, this is going out live, by the way, so everybody's hearing our discussion about.
Everybody's hearing our play. That's fine. I'm just like looking at all of these things. There's one called the Siege of Vicksburg in 2027 from Vicksburg, Mississippi, which is honestly famous. I think just that's the name of the Civil War battle. What is happening here? I
Well,
guess they have a tabletop gaming convention.
yeah. Well, as famously, Gen Con is Geneva Convention, right? Which is a
Yeah.
pun. But it was also in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin initially. Yeah. So this is the content that will not make it to the recording. So whatever live viewers are here, nobody. So we're good. And we're going to transition. Hello, welcome to Derps Talk About Games. I'm your co-host Mango,
And I am your co-host, Buddy.
and we're back. Today we're going to talk a little bit about whatever happened in the past weeks, like we did last time, because we're being lazy. But that's okay.
Because we're bad podcasters, okay? We're not regular anymore. We're just kind of winging it. Okay, you're gonna have to bear with us. But there's a bunch of stuff that's happened. The big things that I highlighted were, a couple of these sort of things. You got to see the Odyssey. I've not seen the Odyssey, but I know that you're thinking about, you're thinking about it a little bit. So we can wet our whistle before I go see the crazy 70mm version next weekend. Montabi came out, the new roguelike deck builder from my company. So, for the record, sponsored, hashtag.
I'm not getting paid anything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I did buy the game for you. That was
fair.
a gift.
Oh, you know what? That's fair. That's fair.
Then and then there's like a bunch of magic stuff and
Yeah.
like, news or whatever that we can
So I was at
talk
Gen
about.
Con, which is maybe a
Yes,
thing to
also
talk
true.
about, and I got to get my grubby little hands on some Hobbit cards. As a result, I can tell some. Why don't we start there? I'll just tell this story
Let's start
about.
there. Yeah, tell me all about Gen Con.
So, Gen Con was fun as usual. Highlights include severe enough thunderstorm that there was a tornado warning, and they made us all gather in like the first floor of the hotel I was staying in, and apparently it like rained inside the convention hall because the roof sucks or whatever. So there's that. But this magic thing. So Wizards has kind of famously been kind of absent for years, right? They used to control the ballroom on the second floor of the convention center. When they kind of like went away because Hasbro was like, "What's this nerd shit?" People are buying our shit anyway. We don't need to be at Gen Con. Um, they ceded that ballroom essentially to Paizo, and word on the street is they're kind of mad about it now, because they can't get it back because Paizo has a lock on it. For full clarity, I'm cribbing a lot of this from the Roll for Combat podcast, because I think his name is Steve Clicker. He is like involved in the industry and he's got connections, and so he talks about like industry level stuff as Scuttlebutt. Sometimes I find it very interesting. Recommend it to everybody else out there. After you're done with this podcast, to go listen to Roll for Combat. It's usually that Steve guy and Mark Seister talking about stuff, and then they usually have a guest. But the basically the kind of word on the street is that Wizards was gone for a while, right? Like they were not running any of the magic stuff at Gen Con. It was this third party company called like, oh, I forgot the name of it, but they're called like player. It's got some like very generic name, but they like run all the tournaments and they give out the prizes and they have their own booths they sell stuff out of. But apparently the guy who is now in charge of D&D was like, this is fucking shameful. We are the TTRPG and we're not at Gen Con. And so they're like, we need to get back there. And so they rented
Do
out.
you know who that guy is, for the record?
I
Jonathan
don't.
Haidt?
Hmm?
Yeah, his name was Jonathan Haidt, and what he did before this is he was the executive producer of Warcraft. So he was sort of the big boss, right? Of
But he's not
not just
that Jonathan Haidt, right?
No, completely
Okay.
different Jonathan Haidt. But you might have seen him in like BlizzCon and stuff like. The only reason I tracked this is actually, you know what's funny? He might have even moved over to Magic, I think, at this point. But I do know who you're talking about because I do remember being kind of the news. Jonathan Haidt is a very old school nerd. Worked on World of Warcraft for a long time. Eventually, kind of took sort of like the Chris Metzen. Chris Metzen actually never had this role, but he is commonly thought to have had this role. The Chris Metzen role at the top of, they call it Warcraft franchise because it also included the mobile efforts and it also included Hearthstone, and it also oversaw stuff like like the movie, like that kind of stuff. But yes, he left and ceded the role to Holly Longdale, who is the now executive producer of Warcraft, who was the classic. She was the kind of the lead producer who was running the classic team and the classic side of things. She kind of took over sort of like retail, the whole thing and everything like that. So fun fact for the whole family. I think Jonathan Haidt actually moved to Wizards not on so he is, I think now he's working on Magic instead of working on D&D, but
Okay, so um I think it might not be John Haidt. It might be Dan Ayub, who is the
okay.
current vice president in charge of D&D at Hasbro, or at Wizards. And he is a former 343 Studios guy. So, very similar.
Yeah, very similar. Oh my god, I actually just looked it up. John Haidt is leaving, apparently. This was like just announced like about a week and a half ago. Um, but wow, yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, 2 years ago, August 2024, previously general manager of the Warcraft franchise. He oversaw Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, I guess he was both. So Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. Um, uh, but boy, wow. Okay. Anyway, fair enough.
Anyway, unwinding this, right? Whoever it is, I
Yep.
think it's Dan Ayub. It's like, this is, and again, this is channeled through the Roll for Comic comments. It's like, this is shameful. And so they rented out a 6-story theater, which is where, and I didn't end up going because I don't really play that much D&D. Um,
Mm.
uh, but this is where they announced, World of Warcraft and Dark Sun and Star Wars and whatever other fucking bullshit they announced at Gen Con. And apparently this is their model moving forward. They're going to do their big announcements at Gen Con and maybe be a bigger player there. But last year they also had a wing at Lucas Oil Stadium. This year they also had a wing at Lucas Oil Stadium. Um which it's just like a little cafe where you could play some D&D. I picked up a free miniature, but they also had Hobbit. They had Hobbit cards to get.
Very cool.
So first things, you could just buy it, but it was always sold. Like there was a line halfway around the stadium at 9 o'clock in the morning when they opened the shop, and and they always sold out within a couple hours. I didn't end up buying any, but they had this other thing where they had 2 activities where you could get Hobbit product for free. The first one was walk 50,000 steps across the course of the convention. I ended up doing that kind of naturally over the course of 3 days. It did take me 3 days to do it. But it was you get a pack and you get a promo card. You get Tom Burton William or whatever it is. I ended up with 6 of them at the end of this. But the other thing is they said they have this it's, I forget what they called it, but essentially it's maybe it's there and back. No, there and back again was the walking challenge. But essentially you have to find 14 QR codes and then scan them all, and then they'll give you or rather you have to scan QR codes. If you scan 1, you get a pack. If you scan like 7, you get the promo card, and if you scan 14, you get a tote bag that has 3 Lord of the Rings packs, 3 Hobbit packs, and 1 collector Hobbit pack, right? and it comes in a nice tote bag. So this is obviously the thing that everybody's going to bother doing, right? And I'm sure they imagined, oh, this will be fun. People will be running around the convention center, finding these QR codes that are hidden everywhere. Two things. First of all, at the start of the second day, there's a note at the top of the thing that says, we have taken the QR code off of the wizards that are walking around. Please stop harassing wizard cosplayers. They don't have QR codes. So there's that. And then the other thing is that, I'm like, all right, so I'm in this original hall. There's like, I find 4 of them. Okay, I'm like, all right, these other ones might be tough, right? They're supposed to be anywhere in the convention hall, including all the way over in the convention center, right? And I walk around the corner, and there is like a gaggle of people all gathered around a guy, like 2 guys with their cell phones out, and we're just scanning off of, some dude who had taken pictures of all of them.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite story. One of the things there's a couple of things that I think are just beautiful, sort of like tidbits of knowledge that we've been kind of tracking over the course of the years of the podcast. One of them, for instance, and we can talk about this a little bit. Do you see the new Red Letter Media video about Star Trek?
I have not yet. It is on my to watch
It
list.
is, for the record, it is so funny. Okay. But one of the things that they talk about is they say, it just feels like the longer Star Trek has gone on, the stupider it's gotten. And I like jumped out of my seat because that's Mango's law of world building. This is like one of like these tidbits of sort of things. Another one of them is water finds a crack, right? Like tracking the way that like clever players outsmart the designers of these games, if we want to typify sort of the if we want to sort of typify our ARG that you're describing as kind of a game. I just find that incredibly funny. It'll always be satisfying to hear that somebody did something that is just so simple, but like that's sort of a bad way to phrase it, but also it is what it is.
And it's not like the guy's getting anything. It's not like anybody's like, I'll give you $5 for it. No, it's like,
Yep.
literally, I took all these pictures, feel free. And then the other part of this is the next day, I like open up the page again, so I'm in. The other thing is they have like a booth where you can pick up starter decks. You have to fill out like a survey. It tells you what color you are. So I managed to do that twice. I got a blue and a black deck. But as I'm standing there, I see one of the QR codes, and I wonder, and I scan it again, and it tells me enter my email. I just enter a different email, and so I'm like, oh, I can do this multiple times. So I walk over to the wing, right? Find another guy standing there with all of the QR codes and scan them all. They are out at that point, and they are starting to mark badges, right? So like there's like a little pink mark on the back of my badge to show that I got the Hobbit booster. But that's only after I got 2 of them, because the next day, so Thursday they didn't run out of them. Friday apparently they ran out of them fairly early. Saturday morning there was the line for the free packs was longer than the line for the paid for packs. Like 3/4 of the way around Lucas Oil. Like I got there at 8:30 being like, oh, this will be fine. No, the line was already like, I walk up the system, like I see this line. I'm like, oh, is this lining up to buy packs? I'm like, what is this line for? And they're like, to redeem the QR codes. I'm like, oh, and then I walk like 50 feet to my left to get on the end of this pitiful line, But I did get my my second bag of goodies.
Was there much of a presence for Magic? My understanding for Magic and Gen Con is that Magic used to do Gen Con stuff, but mostly is divorced at this point. Magic Cons are kind of their own thing. They do a bunch of them a year. There's just not a lot of support for Magic at Gen Con in the way is that true?
So it is run by a third party. None of the tournaments are run by
Okay.
Wizards. They're run by this other group. I think it's the same group that runs it at PAX, actually.
PAX East, yeah.
Okay. And they have a prize table. They run tournaments, right? Like there are a bunch of things, and it's all in Lucas Oil Stadium. And it's it's a bunch of tables. It is like you would expect. It's not the biggest thing in the I think it's a smaller area than say the Paizo Ballroom where they do Pathfinder and Starfinder Society. But it's significant. And also Wizards does do it's an event called like Fun with Gavin or something, right? And on apparently on the earlier days they had like weird playtest cards, like this. I forget what they named the card, was something like this mana rock produces 1 mana of any color uh that matches the color of the ink signed by a magic artist on it. Basically, the idea is you get a magic artist in the artist alley to sign your playtest magic card, and it will produce mana of that color, which I thought was pretty cool. Pretty cool idea.
That is very cute. Yeah.
Apparently there was stuff like this. Apparently on Sunday was when they had said that Mystery Commander was going to be at Gen Con. I asked 4 different people, the first 3 of which didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. I'm like, how do you not know this, right? Like, this is like one of the big announcements. I finally found someone who was like, that was communication error. It's not here. I'm like, okay. I thought it might be on, like, I was looking at signing up for the Sunday event, but it was going to run through my flight. So I was like, whatever, it'll be fine. As I'm boarding the plane, I see people like, posting pictures of,
the very first mystery booster commander. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, son of a bitch, but
I'm very excited for all of us to, get up at 4 in the morning. I mean, we can talk a little mystery booster commander its own thing, but like to get up at 4 in the morning and none of us to get any boxes.
Well, the good news is it'll be at noon because it's always 9 a.m. Pacific time. So, it's, and
that's good, I suppose.
Yeah. And you get in line at 11 and then you just wait. It's fine. Right.
Yeah, the scuttlebutt that I have heard and or seen about this is pretty bad in the sense that like Wizards kind of historically doesn't really print too many of the mystery boosters, but making it very commander focused. I just think it's going to completely dominate. Everybody's going to want to buy a box. We're never going to get close. Maybe like one person in our friend group is going to get a box because they're probably going to limit it for scalpers.
I would say so. They historically limit to 2 purchases per. I managed to get 1 for not Amsterdam. But one I have a mystery booster somewhere, right, sitting back there.
Yeah, that's mystery booster 2, right?
Right, yeah. And I signed up for the other one, right? The one I think this was Amsterdam. I sat in line. And it's like, "Oh, you're due to get out of line in an hour." I'm like, "We'll see." And then it like dropped down to like, you know, 45 minutes, half an hour, 2 minutes. I'm like, oh, and then like I instantly pop out of line, and it's like, sorry, I did not describe that well. Within the span of 10 minutes, it dropped down from an hour to like 10 minutes, right? Like, because they ran out of cards, right? Like, and so everybody got out of line and didn't care. But my prediction is that it is going to be terrible for this first one in November, and then they're going to try and do something to account for it, right? Because I think it's.
I have also heard, I have heard that. I have also heard that they are doing a thing in 27 around Mystery Booster Commander that is like bigger or something. I don't know if that's like real. I saw content creators in the kind of the Magic space sort of talking about it, so we'll hope. But I definitely thought to myself, I was like, I wonder how hard it would be for me to like how expensive it would be for me to go to MagicCon Atlanta, which is like the next one that's reasonable, right? The funny part is they're doing MagicCon Tokyo, and Rachel and I have already been talking about doing a Japan trip, and I was like, if I did my Japan trip, it would Tokyo. But obviously,
the other thing there is like, is that even worth it? Because I don't know if you're going to be able to
just play. You can't buy the boxes.
Like, yeah, right? Like, the way to buy a box is to do like, even if we were at MagicCon Atlanta, right? Like, maybe we'd play a game in a pod, but we'd also all get in line for festival in a box on the day of, so we could maybe get a box to draft at home, right? Like,
yeah.
So on the positive side of things, the Hatsune Miku deck, which goes live at noon tomorrow for all of you who care, right? There's no need to fucking, slam yourself in line, because for the first 24 hours, whoever orders it is going to get it. They're doing printed demand for Hatsune Miku. And they have said that they are going to do printed demand for things like this, right? Which is not Commander Booster, right? Or Mystery Booster, right? Because that's like a packaged product, right? But like a set product like this, or the Goblins, or the Dan thing, which, the Goblins...
it comes with a deck list. You know all of the contents of a deck list. The Mystery Booster is harder to do print to demand because all of the boosters are randomized, all of that kind of stuff. That's what I understand.
Yeah. Although, like I said, my guess is that they're going to get, they're going to sell out in like 15 seconds for the first festival box, and then somebody would be like, I told you we needed to order more of these fucking Commander boosters, right? And they're going to do it. I also have already seen people online being like, fuck you, Wizards, I'm proxying these, right? Like, which, fair enough, I guess.
Chaos drafts are super. Have you ever done a chaos draft before? I did it once in college. We did a Chaos Draft is where you draft 24 different packs of 24 different sets. So there's no synergies, you know what I mean? And it was different back then. It's sort of a legendary thing, right? The way that we did is we just like went to the comic book shop and everybody had to buy 3 different packs. We just all went right in line. It was actually the one that was in the rotunda. You probably know what I'm talking about. You go up to the thing in line, and it was just 8 of us, right? Actually, there was more than 8 of us, but whatever. And we just sort of said, "Can I get this one, this one, this one?" And then somebody was like, "Okay, I can't get those 3. I'm gonna get these 3." And you just go through and get all of just like a bunch of different. We could do it. We could go to Double Midnight and get one avatar pack, one, whatever. You just go down the line. You'd get one of everything basically. But it is wild. It's crazy because there's no meta. You can't play to anything. You just kind of have to like figure it out. But it's insanely fun because it also has this thing where like you just end up playing weird shit that like synergizes across time like 2 years, are between these 2 different sets, but they both had a sub theme around artifacts or something. It's like, oh, actually I can make this work kind of thing. And that's what makes a Chaos Draft fun.
No, absolutely makes sense to me. Also, I will point out in the chat, I assume this is to your thing about Tokyo, that Delph has said, I would literally kill you.
Yeah, if we went to Tokyo and went to MagicCon Tokyo, I do think, yeah, we would be having my preliminary obituary if I was actually making that pitch. I don't think. I mean, I do think I would like to do a MagicCon. I've always sort of thought that if they do MagicCon in the North somewhere, I would really rally to get like the crew to sort of drive. They did MagicCon Rochester or like MagicCon. Obviously MagicCon Boston would be like an easy answer, but just like kind of anywhere in the Northeast that's within relatively straight.
If they did New York City, would you think we'd be able to get like? I think it'd be fun, but it's also like a hard market to travel to, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't know, like New York Comic Con and stuff like that. There's stuff that happens in New York City.
There's stuff that happens in New York City, but is there stuff that like? I guess I'm more talking about our specific group dynamics. It's like, hey guys, you want to go to New York for the weekend and pay for like a New York hotel, and deal with
yeah, I would 1000% live with my dad. I would just go and hang out at my dad's house to doc, and not do any of that. I also have a lot of friends in New York, so I could probably stay in the city. My aunt lives in the city. There's a bunch of
call it Monik. Hey, we're crashing on your floor, Monik.
Well, that's perfect. This is exactly it. Like, if they did MagicCon, we could get money. So anyway, I do think it would be awesome to go to a MagicCon, especially like with the boys, right? But like going to a MagicCon to play at a mystery booster like event with a bunch of fucking randos. The more Magic the Gathering I play with randos, the more I hate it. To me, I just go. We talk about some of this stuff sort of later because I played a couple of games that were pretty frustrating. But like that's really what it comes down to when it comes down to the Mystery Booster Box 3. Anyway, so there was no Mystery Booster Box 3 until Sunday when you had already sort of. When it comes to the big D&D announcements, were you there? Did you pay attention or just?
I saw it all on Twitter. Because like I said, I walked past that building and just like never had a chance to go or need to go in it. I've been open about this before. I do not go to Gen Con to play D&D or Pathfinder. I play plenty of that in my in my normal life.
Yep.
That is the opposite of the thing I want to do. And I did the Paizo keynote this year mostly because I was interested in industry drama, which there was none of. And I kind of regretted filling my time slot with that because the fuck do I care? I could have read about all of these announcements like half an hour later.
Yeah, they're gonna put out a fucking press release. I'm gonna play the mega game or something instead.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And, if you have a question that you want to add, it's worth going to. But if you're just like they played a video, like the first 15 minutes was a video of Eric Mona doing like a pre-canned talk about this. So it's fine. But
yeah. So they announced Star Wars. They announced Dark Sun, which I'm actually medium hyped for. Dark Sun had a 4th edition source book that I liked, but I never really got to play with all that much because by the time that it came out, we were already sort of off 4th edition. Can I be real with you about something? I just want to say this for the record. I've been thinking about this. I think I want to run a 4th edition game. The thing I was thinking about is, do you remember I made the Arc Raiders pitch?
Yeah.
For Saran? I think if we ever do that Arc Raiders pitch for Saran, I'm gonna do that in 4th edition. So it's what I've secretly been
That
thinking.
makes
Anyway,
sense.
so Dark Sun hasn't been around in a long time. They did a 4th edition version of it like 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago at this point. And they announced it with this video and no other fucking details. But they also announced Greyhawk, which is funny because they made a whole deal about how they were abandoning Greyhawk for Faerun for 5th edition. So I guess we're going back. We're going home. Okay. And then obviously the kind of universes beyond talk with Star Wars and World of Warcraft. Do you care about any of the above, or is it all just water under the bridge for Mango?
I care about Dark Sun. Maybe I'm interested in it. The thing I have heard is like, are they going like this? This is going to be R-rated. Is it going to be dark or is it going to be edgy? Is kind of like the way I've heard. Is it going to like wrestle with kind of like the real darker themes of Dark Sun, or is it just going to be like, yeah, man, slaves and gore and shit, right? Excuse me. So I don't know. So that's also a maybe a little specific. I've already pre-ordered the collector's edition of the World of Warcraft book.
Yeah, I am also one. I have been thinking about which one I'm going to get, but collector's edition one. I think this is the point where I'm just willing to admit to myself that I'm just too deeply a Warcraft fanboy to like let it go. I like to think of myself as not being, like I am fans of a lot of things, but fanboy of anything. That's just not true. I'm a Blizzard fan. Okay, I'm a Warcraft fanboy, and I will just shell out. Part of it is that like I already have an ongoing game. It's been on hiatus for a while, but like we have a game where we have been playing World of Warcraft, in the World of Warcraft universe in 5th edition. Porting over is gonna be easy. It's gonna be cool. I'm sure it's gonna clarify a lot of the things because we're using, frankly, one of the most batshit conversions. It's like the Twilight Imperium or that fucking that game, the board game about World War II where Italians have extra water rations so
oh,
that they can boil their pasta.
yeah. I know what you're talking about. Let me look this up.
Yeah, the World of Warcraft 5e fan conversion that most people use is that it is so overcomplicated to try and be one-to-one with like the Warcraft universe that it completely loses sight of. It actually kind of shoots the moon a little bit into awesomeness. We did eventually go with this or whatever, but it is just truly kind of a horrendous setup that is not intuitive at all, and any real game designer would be like, what are you fucking guys doing, right? If you play a fighter that is trying to go for Mountain Thane, you get spell slots where you can cast the spell Thunderclap, which I think is like a level 1 or 2 spell that only warriors get, and I think it literally only warriors get it, and I think it's the only spell that's on their spell list. And I was like, why is this a spell at all? Like, this clearly should just be like an ability that they can use a couple of times per day or whatever, right? Like, this, why did you make this a spell? And the answer is because a person summoning lightning, I guess, it makes it look like a spell.
Probably
There are all
easier
of
to
these
do in
rules.
Beyond, right? Like to customize in Beyond or something like that.
Yeah, the other thing is I am playing a hunter, and hunter specifically marksman hunter is actually mostly close to kind of an alchemist, but with special ammunition types, and the special ammunition types are again only usable by hunters, but like arcane shot, which is like famous hunter spell or whatever. You get that by buying arcane ammunition and then putting it in your gun, using it or whatever. But the arcane ammunition, if you are a marksman hunter, you can like craft a certain amount of it per day, but it uses old 3.5 crafting rules. It doesn't even use 5e crafting rules, and I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Like, anyway, insane fan conversation or conversions aside, I am excited for a let's call it a little bit of a simpler take on sort of the World of Warcraft the World of Warcraft implementation in D&D Beyond, or I'm sorry, in D&D 5e. But they promised a lot. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
Is they promised to sort of deliver just an absolute fuck ton of content into the game, which I think is I don't know. I think it's pretty sweet.
So the name of the game is the Campaign for North Africa, the game that we were referencing, um, with the pasta rule. And then in the chat, Delph is saying that Mr. Collins is really stealing the show. Mr. Collins is a little rowdy because I have been gone all day and haven't had time to hang out with him, and so he missed hanging out. But he's a good boy. But to get back to the topic at him, yeah. So again, something I crit from roll for combat is like, so they said something like, uh, does what's the difference to wizards between somebody who buys the World of Warcraft source book and plays it every day for the rest of their lives and someone who just puts it on a shelf? Zero. They have gotten your money. They don't care. Like, maybe they soft prefer that you play because it like brings other people in or whatever. But at the end of the day, you give them your money and it's like, you know what? I can live with just putting this book on my shelf and being like, okay, whatever with it, right?
I also just think we are the perfect audience. Like, there is nobody who is more like the overlap between World of Warcraft, Dungeons and Dragons, and a modular tabletop game that is already in action. Where like I could see there are going to be a lot of people who like buy the book and never use it because they're in the middle of, and the game is going to end 2 years from now, and 2 years later nobody's going to want to play. But like, because we cycle the campaign every 6 months, it's very easy to opt into, hey, we're going to play a WoW, we're going to play a WoW game. I also think it makes it easier for especially people not me to GM things, because like you don't have to do any of the work on the setting. You can just go, oh, I am Sarian, I understand a million things about World of Warcraft, but I don't have the kind of obsessive time to make a whole campaign setting that I want. So I'm just going to run this like fun, idea that I've had because I've been RPing in Warcraft for a gazillion years, right? Like, there's just no more perfect audience than the group of us. If anybody's going to end up playing with that system and book, it's going to be us.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. But point there being, we don't. I don't necessarily need to buy that book, right? Like, if
Yeah,
if you want to run that, right, or like even if I wanted to run it, I'd be like, give me your copy of the book and I'll read it, right? But it's like, you know what?
that's true.
I love Warcraft. It comes with some rewards for the fucking game, right? Like,
Yep.
I have the spare cash. I'll buy it, right?
I also do love the feeling. I don't know why this matters to me, but the feeling of it on my shelf. I have Warcraft. You can see them right there. I think these are Warhammer books that I actually really looked for quite a while because I just wanted them on my shelf. I got I bought a couple of Warhammer like figurines that came with the codex, and as I was moving through the codex, I was like, oh my god, I love this so much more than looking at it on my phone, which is
Yeah,
the way that I had been doing it, for sort of so long. So there's something really to that feeling. Oh, I mean, I have I have the source book on me. It's on my person kind of thing.
I have a whole series of books about historical firearms that like this company, this YouTuber I watch has been doing this for like years, and like I have cracked one of them maybe once, but I'm like, I have all of them. It'd be a shame if I didn't get the next one, right? Like,
Yeah, you got to complete the collection.
yeah.
Okay.
And I might
Okay,
have
so that's
finally,
something.
broken it because I'm not getting one of the Vietnam era ones. But it's but it's a nice thing to have on the shelf, right? Like that,
Yeah.
exactly that.
So I was gonna say, that's all the D&D stuff. Are there any other like big news announced things that happened at Gen Con? I guess the only other Paizo has the Iron Gods sequel that bridges Pathfinder and Starfinder, apparently.
Yeah, so that is, so to clarify from them, because that states it a little too strongly, it is a spiritual sequel to Iron Gods. It is set in Numeria, and it is designed to showcase, how Starfinder and Pathfinder are intercompatible, but it is not like strictly a crossover adventure, right? Like, you're supposed to be able to
Okay.
integrate the. Apparently we have disconnected uh from the internet. So hold on one second. Not from the from
From Twitch.
all right, maybe it reconnected. All right, we reconnected. We're good.
Sounds good.
Uh, but yeah. So it's gonna be a spiritual sequel set in Numeria. I would be totally down. I have already been harassing the relevant people to see if I can get them to ride again. Um,
I certainly would love to ride again. I also just think I am sort of itching to play a little bit. Having like running a lot of games is good and it's fun. It's actually very rewarding to like move all of this stuff in my they're coming to the end of Scarecrow King, which is very nice. They're doing the final boss, which maybe we can but like also at the same time I'm just like god holy fuck I can't it is so much to prepare all of these things all of the time.
uh, fair enough. Other big announcement from Paizo, or it's the announcement of the news, right? Like they talked about a lot of stuff that we already knew was coming. But the other piece of news is that next in I think it's Gen Con 27 or maybe the cycle after that is Tome of Dungeons, which has a bunch of GM stuff, and on the player side, ancestries like Gargoyle and Awakened Ooze, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, we are in the let's build some bullshit until you release Pathfinder 3, right? Like, it's part
Yeah,
of the
that's what it
part of
feels
the
like.
cycle, right?
Yeah,
Like,
there were a couple of those books at the end of Pathfinder that frankly I still want to go back. Like I have long theorized I wanted to play a shifter. I had a whole character for it. But like boy, does it feel like that's that's where we're at.
yeah, so technically Gen Con was released for Impossible Magic. I got the PDF beforehand. I've shared it. I have the book came while I was at Gen Con. And that has new classes, right? It has Necromancer, it has remastered Summoner and Magus. What are the other two it has? It has two other brand new classes that I cannot remember off the top of my head. But it's weird new stuff, which I appreciate, but it's also kind of like we are in the experimental phase, so that whenever they decide to like take these lessons forward into Pathfinder 3, um, I would expect within the next 2 years to hear an announcement of Pathfinder 3 coming, or something like that. Because
Yeah.
I just can't imagine that we're that far out from it, because
10 years is about the length of Pathfinder 1E, I think, and I would be, we're kind of coming up I think on the 10-year anniversary of Pathfinder 2E in the next couple of years, and I would not be surprised if 2028, you get that announcement sort of thing. Just looking over at Rachel, who is watching this thing, I don't see the stream back
okay. Well, I saw it on I see it on my Twitch, on like my personal Twitch, but that's not on the same.
Oh, it's back. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it just required a reload.
Okay. So the other class in Impossible Magic is Runesmith, which looks a little janky, but looks interesting. Like I would maybe try Runesmith in a particular game.
That sounds like your kind of the underwater basket weaver,
Hey,
you're gonna do weird shit.
but it's just kind of like they like place runes on things and then they invoke them. It's like a two-step magic, but it's kind of like a different way of doing magic, right? Like that's like in terms of like interesting. I actually think the Necromancer is a little more interesting because there's like a caster version and there's like a Death Knight version, right? Like if
It's cool.
if low kicks wanted to play low kicks again, right? Like Necromancer is the right class for that, as opposed to like the thing he hacked together from the previous stuff.
Yeah.
And remastered Magus is fine, right? Like I will probably end up running a Magus at some point, but it's mostly the same, not a ton different. But yeah. And then also remastered. They nerf Synthesis Summoner super hard in 2e, and it's still bad. So
What is Synthesis Summoner?
it's the one where you merge with your Eidolon. And so in 1e, basically the summoner inside, like you use the mental stats of the summoner and the physical stats of the Eidolon, and I think
Oh, I know this because Nick. I did not. That specific thing I have heard. Nick was talking about it and how insanely good it was. I think he wanted to run one or something.
so
The
I
chat.
had long friend of the cast, Mike Ryberg. When he joined us for a couple games, I built him a synthesis summoner based on Nick Cage's character in The Wicker Man. Or at least what basically it was like a dude in a bear suit, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
um uh and it was very powerful, but it was good because he was not a particular, like, it was his first game playing, right? And he's playing with us fucking munchkins, right? So it's like, here, you can take the big gun, because
Just the most broken shit in the game. Yeah.
maybe you'll be able to keep up with our nonsense if you get to play the broken character, right? Like, but yeah, so they, they recognized that was bad, but I think they nerfed it. Like, you basically can't do anything if you're merged into your Eidolon. It's basically just kind of like it's a level 1 feat that basically lets you merge into your Eidolon. It doesn't let you do anything while you're in it. I think it's mostly a flavor feat, and I don't think they ever built any feats to kind of support it later, which would be the way I would think to do it, to cut back on the power. But that's neither here nor there.
I am not surprised that is super, super fucking broken. One of the things that I've been doing recently is playing Baldur's Gate 3. So basically, my Mythic Plus crew, we're waiting for the new season to drop in Warcraft. It's going to be and we've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 because me, Elle, and Brad have all played the game together, but Dave has never played the game. So Dave is kind of being a little hobo. We're just kind of following Dave around as Dave does all of the story questing, and we just sort of support them. But Brad is playing an open hand monk that abuses, it's not quite an exploit, but it feels like an exploit. Basically, with monk, you don't normally get to add your strength to your damage, but in the first area, somebody sells an elixir of giant strength that when you take it until you long rest, it will give you 20 strength. And then you can also take a feat at level 4 that adds your strength back into your unarmed strikes. And Brad is now kind of hard carrying this whole run of Baldur's Gate. And we were talking about, he was like, wow, this is really broken. I didn't expect how broken this was. And I was sort of just like, ability scores are like the foundation of like D&D, and so being able to cheat like 12 points, not even 12 points, it would be an astronomical number of points, obviously, to like actually sort of set up a thing where you could have both a 17 dex and a 20 strength. Like, you just never be able to run this in a conventional D&D game, right? Anyway, it's gross, and it makes me think that, boy, yeah, point buy is a good rule is a good rule to use.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Only other things I would chat out about Gen Con was that the highlight of the show for me was game wise was this indie RPG called Ambition, which is it was not the one I was expecting to wow me, but it's called they describe themselves as a Taoist tarot based tactical TTRPG. It's like a combination between um what's the name of it? Fucking Disco Elysium and Pathfinder 2e. And it impressed me the most out of any of the games I played. I also played Lex Arcanum, which is this Roman based one, which was okay. And it was full of people being like, like the scenario we ran through involved like the battlefield where Vercingetorix like fought the Romans or whatever, and everybody at the table was like, ha, 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 ha. I was like, I don't know my Roman history well enough to care, right?
I'm surprised they didn't do Hannibal crossing the Alps. Okay,
Yeah,
you'd think that Fabian and Hannibal would. I mean,
I'm
I guess
sure
famously
somebody has
Fabian and
written
Hannibal
something.
didn't really fight, but
So to be clear, Lex Arcanum is it's basically posits a world where like an alternate history where magic is real, and the Romans just listened to the oracles because they actually had mystical predictive powers, and so the Roman Empire avoids falling. And so it's set like a couple hundred years after the fall of the Roman Empire, but the Roman Empire is still there and strong and doing its thing. And there's some small amount of like divination magic. And you run around as basically like Roman soldiers and you deal with problems.
but like there's magic, like you could use magic, somebody in your party.
Yeah. So like there's like
okay.
There are scholars and like I said, most of the magic is divination type magic, but like we fought like ghosty things, and so it's low fantasy, but it's still magic, right? Like it's still fantasy.
That is deeply cool. Honestly, yeah. That is deeply cool. I feel like you could frankly do this for quite a lot, and I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's a million Kickstarter tabletop games that I've never heard of. Like for instance, I've been watching Shogun. You know, you could do one for Samurai. It would be so fucking easy, right? To do, a little light sprinkle of kind of low fantasy magic into sort of a sort of Sengoku Jidai setting, and you would just have such a gangbuster like,
You wouldn't even necessarily like for like samurai. You could just do like what's the name of the cut, like 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 the
Book of Ten Rings. Oh, the Iaido cut or
the idol
whatever,
cut,
right?
right? Like you could just
Yeah.
flavor it as like real martial arts, wink wink, right, and be 90% of the way there, right? Like um
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I absolutely think that,
yeah.
you could get away with that. So some of that kind of.
But I will say, like, the system didn't really sing to me. Ambition did. So like your stats are, you have like six main stats, and like your skills are all like, they're like voices from Disco Elysium, right? Like, you roll on it, and the the game master tells you what this voice in your head points out. There is this storm that like makes objects forget their nature and reconfigure themselves. And so like we were at this mill, and if you looked closely at it, you would realize that it used to be a ship that the storm has like unmade and remade into a mill because it forgot what it was supposed to be. And if you like twiddle reality a little bit, you can get it to revert back to being like a ship type of deal.
That's
Which
cool.
yeah, and the combat was very solid. Like the combat was like usually these indie games are like, and when it comes to combat, you roll a die and say, "I threw flowers at him," and it's great, right? Like you kind of
Yeah.
it's all very nerve. This is like sharp tactical combat, clearly very inspired by PF2E, um, like the whole three action system and whatnot. Um, and like every character, every class has their own unique minigame. I played the Fool. His minigame is every time you roll a d6, you write down that number, and if you can either spend them, or if you accumulate five of them, you can like, I forget what they called it, but it's like end of fate or something like that. And you roll the dice, and then you make like a poker hand out of those dice, and depending on the best hand that you get, you apply different effects. But then like the investigator, what they do is they have this whole system of investigation wheels where like they are filling up different hexes to like deal with like, or different wedges of this
This
wheel.
sounds amazing.
Yeah.
This sounds so dumb. I'm all into it. I
And then
love that. Okay.
the gun witches, they have a revolver, but they load their spells in like bullets, and they have to fire them in order. And so like and so like like every character had their cool little thing, and I just thought that was fantastic. So like apparently it is like a pay what you want thing. I had heard that maybe they were doing like a full version at some point. I'm totally on board with it, so I'm going to I want to recommend it's Ambition by, I think it looks like, the Press Betwixt. Um, but it was my favorite thing at Gen Con this year. I also did a mega game, as is my want. It was I got assigned the Patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church, and um, the scenario was like zombies showing up in America. So like basically the game opens. Vladimir Putin has locked himself in his house and won't come out, and so that's what the Russians are dealing with. Like literally Vladimir Putin. And in America, rats start dying at grain silos, and it's not really my job, but I'm the only one that's like paying attention to the fucking feed, and so I'm like screaming at the Duma to like so. So what happens is the Duma gets its act together, and im- you know dismisses Vladimir Putin and makes the prime minister the president. The president then immediately goes to like end the Ukraine war by like withdrawing, right? And I am like, they have the grain. The grain's there's like I thought it was a pandemic of some sort, right? Like there's about to be a big problem with grain. You cannot withdraw. And I like made enough. I don't know if it was just me, but like the military leaders were also kind of like the military coups the Russian government, and says
I
they
love mega games.
yeah, they sit there. The guy running the country says, I look, we need to, make sure this Ukraine thing wraps up in a way that's satisfactory to us, and then we'll hand back power to the civilian government. And the fucking cell controller is just like sitting there laughing his ass off. It's like, it's perfect, right? Like, said every other fucking military dictator in history, right? Like,
Listen, Cincinnati did it. Okay, he's
yeah.
the only one ever. you know.
And George Washington. Um,
Mm.
you know, I finished watching the Ken Burns documentary, the Civil War, or not Civil War, the Revolutionary
Of the
War.
American Revolution.
Yeah. And, but yeah, so that was fun, but because I was having trouble like, my problem with these games is I kind of get locked into too much what I think my expectations of who I am is supposed to do, right? So like I feel like I'm the head of the Russian Orthodox Church. I'm supposed to just be fomenting problems through the populace, which aren't real players. So I'm just kind of making media declarations. That was probably a misplay on my part. So I didn't have as much fun with it as I could have. But so Ambitions is my big call out.
I have thought about doing a mega game. I had this thought not all that long ago, because we were all at Nomi, which is like a place near our house, to continue doxing myself or whatever. And I was just thinking about how we were playing Magic, and like Rachel, Jess, and Caroline were playing that like thing. And I was thinking to myself, is there a good way that I could sort of like fuse these two together? And then I got on this idea. What would it look like if we just got everybody, like all of our friends, right? All 20 of us together in a room to play a mega game. Um, uh, but the thought never went any further than that. Yeah. Okay, but I think it would be sweet. Okay.
The problem is you'd have to people would have to run the experience, right? And then
yeah,
and that's always the right.
It would have to be like you and me, sort of like GMing it, and trying to find a good way to like, I don't know, appeal to all quadrants of life. Probably is not a winning combination, but who cares?
See, the problem is you and I would have to run it and fly in like Mark and Nick to like be people who drove the action when people are like in the start were like, oh, I don't know how this works, right? Like, you have to have like,
yeah, I wonder if we could like do sub games. Like maybe we could make like thematic Magic decks or whatever. And part of the thing is that Ray and Josh and Frank and someone have to play this game of Magic, and it'll do whatever. And then there's a sub game of whatever, this other thing. And then we could do a sub game of like, like something like that. Something that like cheats into the fact that we all have certain games that we know and we play and we understand the rules of or whatever. Like I know Munchkin is a thing that, Jess and Raylana. I hate Munchkin, but I understand. I understand intellectually that other people do not. And so it's like that kind of thing. If you could make something like that work, kind of making a grand mega game out of a number of individual sort of game experiences.
So I think the way to do this would be to like set up like people playing Warhammer 40K on a board, and then have people playing Warhammer decks in Commander, and then like whenever a Commander game resolves it, like resolve to some benefit for the game on the board or something like that. That's I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. But that's neither here nor there. But
that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so was there any other Gen Con news?
Nothing that I particularly latched onto or cared about. So the only big thing is next year's the 60th year. Apparently they sold out 72,000 tickets all days. And apparently they're bumping it to 78,000 next year. So it's back, right? Like it hasn't been quite this big since the pandemic, but it's fully back in swing, and you could feel it. There was some like one of the events I did. Rhys Darby is a New Zealand actor. He was in our Flag Means Death. I actually listened to one of his podcasts that updates like once every 6 months, but he did a Dungeons and Dragons session on stage that I went to. It was called I forget. It's Darby and Dragons, right? It was simple, right? He had a DM who has done he apparently stumbled into doing Dungeons and Dragons as part of a stand-up set, and then he got approached by a company to do games, and because he's personal friends with Rhys Darby, he pulled him in, and then the other two players were Zach the Bold and I think someone from Critical Role, basically other D&D micro celebrities. And so they did a 2-hour kind of goofy session on stage. It's not super close to the rules, but it was fucking funny, right? It was a great time. And that it was super fun. So, but that's just kind of like entertainment. Otherwise, I did feel like this is probably the last year I'm going to do Gen Con solo. Like if I can get people to rally for next year, I will do it again, but that will probably be it for me for a while, just because I am an old man now, and I do not want to be away from my wife for this long without, without at least other people. Well, honestly, a big part of it is like in between games, there was not a lot to do, well, not a lot for me personally to do, and I'm not the type of person to like go like wander the floor and like try and insert myself into somebody else's commander game, right? Like and be like, hey, do you need a fourth or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Um, and so like the thing I liked better about say PAX is that after the show we would all hang out and do something. And so I would do that. I would do like Gen Con is par excellence for what it is. And I would do it again with
I
friends.
actually ironically sort of think that Gen Con is probably better for our friend group than PAX East in terms of just like video games are just like a more atomized thing than like board games and TTRPGs and stuff like that. And when you think about somebody like Jess, who's like, not a crazy video game person. She obviously did come for sort of like PAX and stuff like that. But I actually think that Gen Con will be more, would be more suited for that kind of person like in our friend group. And our friend group as a whole would probably respond much better to Gen Con than PAX in sort of sum total outside of distance.
I was gonna say like the problem is Indianapolis, right? Like
yeah.
Maybe PAX Unplugged is an easier lift because it's Philadelphia instead of Indianapolis or something like that, right? Or like one of these other. We should probably just get people to go to these like smaller cons that are actually local to us, instead of
I kind of feel like we're describing the friend slop of like tabletop RPGs.
Yeah,
right. Like the cons are fun if you just get your friends to go. And it's like, well, at that point, is the con fun or having it out with?
So the thing I will differentiate, and I think this is important, is it's not that the con isn't fun, right? Like if we went to Gen Con, I would still probably do like an event by myself, right? It's the stuff that happens in between the events, right? Like, if I am sitting alone in my hotel room and like, killing time, or like, just walking around the hall or like, getting food at a food truck, right? There are food trucks in New Hampshire. I don't need to fly to fucking Indianapolis to eat out of a food truck, right? Like, that's the space where I feel like my time was not as well spent. And that's just naturally going to happen at a con, right? But if you're there with like having friends to like smooth over that time, or like later at like playing a game of Commander late at night type of deal, right? Like we do at PAX, right? Like is I think the thing that really makes it feel magical, right? Like is and there is some friend slap aspect to that, but it's more about filling the spare time than it is about the actual stuff of the kind. It's just it's making those ratios worth it.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. Rachel in the chat says DerpCon New Hampshire when
I would say Mark has been like offhandedly pitching MangoCon a couple times, right? Because that's essentially what like bachelor party was, right?
Your bachelor party last year was essentially DerpCon is very funny to me. I think we could run I think we could run a real like lake house weekend kind of thing. Honestly, the best time to do this I expect would be kind of the deep winter though. Like all of the stuff that we're describing is like inside stuff, and there's kind of a little bit of like you could sort of flavor some of it as like cozy, sort of blankets and hot chocolate kind of I think that would be
that are like October maybe, right? Like a kind of like like falls in the air. Maybe we do like a little bit of like walking around in nature, and then we come back to the cabin and light the fire and like play some I'm already getting hot chocolate. Yeah, hot chocolate and Commander.
The nice part about doing it in October is you can do all the harvest kind of apple cider and pumpkin sort of like stuff. Anyway, not that we're workshopping. Listen, actually, it's my fucking podcast. I can do what I want. Okay. Anyway, I want to talk about some other stuff.
Yes.
So Montabi came out. Montabi, this is a game that I've been working on for 2 years, which is a deep love next to all. I like fully, completely exhausted Astray before its launch, where Montabi I did not do something sort of similar, but I really love this game, and you played 3.5 hours of it, which is enough that I get to talk about some of my favorite aspects of it, to understand what I'm sort of getting at. But just to sort of get your high end sort of, you described playing a couple of games focusing on Hido the fire hydrant who wants you to have lots of, and eventually you sort of settled into a run that was a game winner.
Yeah, so the first couple games I played on, so I played one game on the demo, which was Hido, and I like instantly smashed it. I was like, this is easy, and I will wait for the full release, right? Then I full release came out. Thank you for the gift, buddy. And I played a couple of runs with the other Montabi because like, oh, I've already done Hido, and I found them more difficult to wrap my like the Hido rapid fire build is like apparent is maybe the easiest way to put it, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah, once you see it, you get it, right? So
yeah,
the idea is that Hido has these things called the flick shots, which are 0 AP. They don't.
uh,
Yeah,
the,
cab pod. We love a good cab pod.
and there's like there's like maybe I may is there a fighter one? Oh, the armor bug. I did an armor bug.
Oh, Kaibug.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Kaibug is sweet. I
Uh,
think I said that Kaibug would maybe be one of your favorite. Kaibug is very much about like turning armor into offense, like stacking up a ton of armor and then smashing somebody with it, kind of thing.
though the ratios on Kaibug's powers are absurdly punishing though, right? Like the card that transforms armor into like attack power is like 6 armor per, right? And it's like, and at the rate that you're gaming armor, that's like, is it even worth it at that point? But
I've built some pretty
okay,
hard. Kaibug has hard carried me a couple times,
okay,
but typically it's less around that and more about just this ability to, Montabi is a game where you can just stack power in
right,
a way that I find extremely satisfying, right? Where you go like turn 5 or something and you're kind of essentially unbeatable. And because Kaibug starts with that ability to like turn armor into damage or whatever, most of the time if you're leaning into kind of a Kaibug carry build, what you're trying to do is stack 500 armor on Kaibug. He tanks everything effortlessly. Your armor gain like out armors their incoming damage, and then you eventually kind of put it all into position that he can just like one punch kill something or kill the whole enemy team or kind of whatever else. And so it's like, can you build around that or no?
yeah, no, and
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
that makes sense to me. But it seems like some of like those secondary cards that are like not doing direct damage are just like bad value for armor, essentially.
Yeah, like
Uh,
trading all of your armor for attack up. I definitely understand.
yeah,
I would
at
probably
a
never
rate of
take
6
that.
per, right? Like that's
Yeah, exactly.
um and that it like
There's one that I've used where it turns it into a beam, where he turns all of his armor into a beam, and it does it does 1 damage for every 2 armor, so 50% of your armor's damage essentially. And that's one where you can stack up to 500 armor and then just Kamehameha the turn 7. And your whole game plan is stack, 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 stack. Can I kind of race the enemy?
how do you retain the armor? Is there like a talent for it? Or like a
He
passive
has a
for it?
bunch of cards that can retain the
Okay.
armor.
That makes
And then
sense.
you can also do some extra stuff to retain the armor in trainer specifically. Where like the trainer has the option to
Mhm.
like there's a couple of them. It'll be stuff like legendary draw on the student is really good, where you just give somebody a temporary legendary ability, and a lot of times you can generate something that'll hold on to his sort of armor. I think he has a passive for it, and then he has cards, and those cards will say you hold your armor next turn. And the
Okay.
question is, can you just draw back into those cards?
Yeah, that makes sense. No,
Yeah.
I I appreciate all that. I think it's an interesting game. I think it is going to have I'm going to have the exact same problem with it I have with a lot of these um kind of like roguelite deck builder types, which is once I have beaten it a couple of times, I'm like, I do not care to do this again with higher numbers. And so I like usually top out at like Ascension 2 in like Slay the Spire terms. Like I did the knives build for the necromancer or whatever it is in Slay the Spire. I forget. And like I did it, and it was real good on Ascension 1. It was real good on Ascension 2, and maybe be enough to get me through Ascension 3. But actually, I don't care enough to just do this on bigger numbers, and so I'm done with this. And that is my
Yeah.
anticipate. Like Montabi, obviously, like Estrella had run this X number of times to get the true ending. Like I actually think this is my downfall for Hades. I've talked about this before. That Hades 2, my problem was that I was enjoying ramping up the difficulty, but when I was ramping it to the point where I couldn't get story progression anymore, I kind of broke. I just took off all the extra difficulty and just ran, the 3 more that I needed to do to finish the story. Like the simplest difficulties, I just wanted to see the story beat. Um, uh, what was I gonna say? And so like Montabi, I can probably see myself getting through. Like I unlocked the first chain, right? And so and there's 3 chains, so I'm sure that I will hold through to at least see all 3 of the chains at some point. But I don't know if I'll hold past that. That's not a criticism of the game. That's just how I engage with these types of
Yeah, I
games.
get you. Honestly, the thing about Montabi that's interesting on that level, I kind of think this makes me feel like Estrella is a little bit sort of like better when the downfall for Estrella is that the start is always the same. This was the thing that I found the most frustrating with Estrella. All of the guys have the exact same starting deck, essentially, right? So anytime you wanted to do sort of like a build or a run with one of the Oracle, you were always sort of starting in the exact same place, and that got very kind of like boring. It was essentially kind of the thing that made me like lose interest in Astray, even though I did essentially 100% the game. In Montabi, I don't have that problem because your starting Montabi is different every time, and kind of the interesting thing about Montabi is that like you're sort of making a number of very early decisions about what Montabi you're picking up and putting on your team to kind of make your starting deck. So every start feels pretty unique, but the root of the trainer, the fighter, and the chef, who are sort of the 3 trainer like human characters that you can play, those are always the same. And that's the part where I lost interest after. Listen, it was 300 hours. Okay. Um, that's the part where I feel like I'm doing the same thing every. When I play the student, I just kind of only like playing the student one way. I kind of don't like any of the other builds. I just always gotta go for the same sort of thing. And so even if I'm doing the student with Washette Hido, which is a certain comp that's all about funneling cards into Hido and making Hido go insane, or a comp that's like, they're both doing their own sort of thing and putting out a kind of equal amounts of damage, but they're just very complementary, right? Like that stuff that's the place where it feels cool. And then I have the trainer, and I have built the trainer in the same way every sort of time, right? That's kind of where I foresee sort of a little bit of the downfall of Montabi coming. The other thing is that, and I was heard about this pre-show, I cannot stop myself from making certain builds. It reminds me of Stealth Archer in Skyrim, is what I would say is the closest analog. My favorite Montabi is Kyuchi. Kyuchi is a lot like Hido, but like in an sort of an, I would almost call it an APM sense. Kyuchi basically says, have you ever gotten any resonance Montabi? Do you know what resonance is?
No, I don't think so.
Resonance is essentially just a stacking buff. It's kind of like experience counters or something in Magic. It's like essentially a stacking buff, but like individual Montabi will, right? So there's a big panda Montabi called Yi Pao. He uses resonance. Yi Pao's resonance says, I have attack plus attack equal to my resonance, and when I move, I lose my resonance, right? So he uses resonance to sort of scale up his plus attack damage, and basically it turns Yi Pao into kind of this like stationary sniper. You want Yi Pao to stay still and kind of tank any damage that comes through, because the more resonance that he builds, the more he can just like shoot down range and completely obliterate things. Kyuchi is a resonance character, but Kyuchi is using resonance mostly as like a card draw engine or like an AP engine. So when Kyuchi gets 3 resonance, every 3 resonance Kyuchi gets an AP. And so what you're doing with Kyuchi is you're putting together a lot of very finicky kind of infinite combos that feel a little bit like Hido in the sense of there's a lot of 0 mana sort of spells. He also has a passive that says if you pick it up obviously, that says whenever you use a 0 mana attack, it deals an extra 100% attack damage, so kind of turn stuff into punches, which is just like insane. He will like pop off to an insane degree. Every time I see a Kyuchi on the map, I'm just like, what if I just picked up Kyuchi? And I just can't stop myself. It's just so fun. I fucking love that build because it's so technical. You have to order things in very like specific ways in order to make sure that you're
It's a
hitting your
very
third
dirtly
resonance
build.
It's extremely dirtly, extremely dirtly. The other one for this, for the record, is Taigo. Taigo reminds me of certain like magic commanders, like or something like that, that you go infinite at the drop of a hat, or like Kinnan or something. Good sort of modern Magic terms. It's just you. It's so infinite. It's so easy to go infinite with Tygo. Who's sort of this like boxer sort of tiger Montabi, but his whole thing is about adding injuries into his deck and then clearing the injuries from his deck for big powerful benefits. And you can do quite a lot of just like crazy stuff if you pick up Tygo and go sort of nuts. And so my problem is that like I just can't make myself do the sort of unique builds that make me vary up my kind of gameplay in sort of the same way. Interestingly, there's another roguelike I've been playing a lot. Guild
Sorry, say that one more time.
Guild Run is another roguelike. It did not come out, but it released a demo, and I've just been playing the fuck out of this demo. Guild Run is it's an auto battler, like, so it's a single player auto battler. It's basically like, what if you did TFT but solo, like Slay the Spire or something kind of along those lines.
Do you like the Bazaar?
One of the things that, oh, I guess, is the Bazaar single player?
Well, it's you're playing against like the shades of other players, right? Like, well, there's
Okay,
PvE, and then there's like the builds of another player asynchronously, right? Like you're not actually like they don't actually like see your
Guild
match.
Run is not that. Guild Run I actually expect would probably, I mean, I would recommend it, and I think we could maybe even do a whole episode on it because there's a lot that's happening in Guild Run. But one of the things that's interesting about Guild Run is when you level up a hero, kind of like level up a hero in TFT or in Hearthstone Battlegrounds or something like that, you get to choose sort of an ability, and they have what are called masteries, which is if you have won a run with a hero using this ability, you get like a little, and that's it. That's all I needed in order to stop running the same build every time. Right, on all of my Guild Run, I started hunting and going, oh, I've already won with this build, let me try it different. And Montabi doesn't have a feature like that is just kind of like motivating to do not QG builds.
I'd say the other thing that I thought was kind of a shame about Montabi was there were some early runs where I was like aggressively using the swap power to like protect my Montabi, like even like swapping a Montabi just out into a blank spot to keep it from like taking damage on like what would be the second to last turn, assuming everything went according to plan, that kind of thing. And it seems like there is not enough space or reason to have powerful backbench Montabi to swap into. It feels like that's like the wrong, like just kind of the wrong strategy. Like you're always pumping up your two primary Montabi, especially because if you catch a Montabi in like Act 3, it already gets like a 5-level boost, right? So why bother putting anything into your backbench Montabi? And I wish there was a better way to support kind of like a hot swap style play. At least if you wanted to go that,
very interesting.
like if you wanted to build that way, like you have to probably do that at the trainer
build
level
that way pretty commonly, ironically enough. But like I think of certain Montabi as kind of being like, you mentioned Cab Pod. Cab Pod to me is like the ultimate version of this. I take Cab Pods in a lot of my on Montabi just because I need a little bit of defensive power. Like I just need somebody who will pop in and doesn't do a lot. He doesn't need to be very tanky, doesn't need to have a whatever. He's not there to carry the run. He is there so that if I have a projectile that is coming down range that is going to kill something important, I can swap in Cab Pod. And Cab Pod has mobility and defensive power, right? And can either tank that hit or spawn the shell to tank the hit, move out of the way, right? Like I do a lot of that kind of stuff with my swapping. Ironically, swapping aggressively used to be the way to play the game, and I delivered the feedback that put the kibosh on this play style. And the reason why is because backbench Montabi used to spawn with the same number of AP as your frontline Montabi. And so this is one of the old playtest builds. When I was giving my feedback in that playtest, I was like, hey, the way that you guys have designed this, you are, I was sort of talking about action economy. I was sort of like, the 1 AP I spend on substitution every turn nets me 3 AP to go get somebody off the bench. So if I 1 AP, I have somebody, they blow their whole move set, I swap them onto the bench and pull somebody out, they now have 3 AP and they get to blow their whole move set as well. And I was sort of talking about how I actually don't think that that's the right sort of play. Like I think it's okay. There's certain charms and trinkets and stuff like that you could build in order to sort of put that together. And I will sometimes tuck Montabi, from my sort of starting lineup. Um, with Montabi that will come off of sort of the back line. Like I kind of have starters and finishers in that sort of sense. Like some builds will work that way, not very many. Um, but I think I was really talking about how like the action economy there is you want to all the only way to play the game is buy every Montabi biscuit that you can, fill your backbench as much as possible, and every turn swap in a new Montabi because even if it's a shitty Montabi that has 3 ability to come out and just immediately use all 3 abilities or 4 abilities on turn 2, 5 abilities on turn 5, just the action economy is too raw there to sort of overcome. And so they changed it so that when you start turn 1, the backbench only gets 1 P. But yeah.
Was it if
There are also a couple of builds that really lean into it on other characters. The fighter, I guess I will spoil a little bit for you. The fighter has an ability that says my substitute gives +3 attack. So you tuck somebody out and they get +3 attack, and then you bring it back in, they get +3 attack, and they get +5 attack, right?
okay.
And so you do stuff like that sometimes.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I would say like
Yeah.
if and I unlocked the fighter. I have only ever played the student, and so like back in the nap, or if you're spitballing, how I would do it would be something like there's a trainer that like takes 1 AP, like all the Montabi start with 1 less AP, but your backbenchers start with 1 more, and so you can kind of balance that out or something like. But that's that.
Yeah, there are a couple of those. There's also a couple of charms that increase your team size. Like there's one that's like you get +1 team size, but you draw 1 fewer card per turn. That tends to be a very swap build because you're not drawing enough to kind of like fuel, and you are putting people onto the back. You empty somebody's hand, but they still have an AP left over. You put them on the backbench. They come out the next turn. They're drawing fewer cards, so they just kind of hit their big thing. It's like that. So
Yeah, that makes
anyway, that's I don't know. That's Montabi. That's everything I want to say about Montabi.
Fair enough.
What else is going on? Do you want to talk about some other stuff? So obviously we talked a little bit about the presence of the product of Mystery Booster 3. But Mystery Booster 3 does include 60 new commanders that we could all, sort of play with, and many of whom I sort of feel like are you commanders, to be honest. I feel like you could build maybe like 10 different ones of these, right?
So Grix's commander in particular, like the one that's like, just
Lord Tressorhorn.
Is that which one's the one?
The 10-4 trample indestructible. You have to sacrifice 3 creatures.
No. This is the one that's like steal your shit, right? Like the Hold on. Okay. I sent this to the chat because when we were looking through stuff, I was like, oh, this is absolutely
this is absolutely like your thing. Hold on, let's take a look because I do know who you're. The Madcap Jester. Yeah. Whenever they attack, each opponent exiles the top card of the library, and you can then play those cards.
Yeah, no, that is like the perfect me deck, right? Like, there's a couple in here that are interesting. Like Sasha and Waistcoat, like I don't know if I would actually have fun playing that deck, but it's like that's an interesting challenge, right? Like the
mono blue, morph has been a sort of thought I've had for a long time. Like, how do you make a neat deck out of something like that? I have thought about Lord Tressorhorn, or Tressorhorn's Lord Turn, which is the other Grixis commander, 2 blue, black, red, trample indestructible. When he enters, you sacrifice him unless you sacrifice 3 creatures, pay 3 life, and have target opponent draw 3 cards. Oh, I just think that's so cool. But he's trample and indestructible. How sweet.
Yeah, no, that does sound awesome. Then you immediately gets path to exiled, right? Like
yeah. Yep, that is exactly what ends up happening with him. How do you feel about the rule breaker cards? There's a little bit of a controversy come to understand in sort of the commander community about the rule breaker cards.
So Gavin Verhey has like a post about this, or that I think is very kind of sums it up well, which is I think this is cool because it basically keeps it. It lets you have other aspects of the color pie without just having, or lets you have cool things in the other parts slice of the color pie without getting everything in that slice of the color pie, right? Like you can get like a black angel without necessarily getting everything that black has to offer, and I think that's good. I think that's good design. I think that's an interesting design space. I am very in favor of it. I get that it rubs some people the wrong way, but like if I can get access to blue things without necessarily pulling in Ristic Study, I think that's cool, right? Like that kind of thing. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts? Is there any substantive criticism here besides, I want my 5-color angel, please?
I mostly think it is about saving players from themselves.
Right.
Well, everybody wants a 5-color commander to do this thing, right? Oh, a 5-color angel commander who can play all of the angels in all the different colors. There aren't that many, but there's a bunch of different multicolored angels from Innistrad. There are 5 different ones of those. And I could totally see a person who really loves Innistrad and they want to play a 5-color deck that is about the 5 different angels from Innistrad and all the different variations, and you need all 5 colors in order to sort of make that work. But the temptation there, and this is exactly what has happened every time I have made, is you just get to put the best colors from all of these. You get to put Path and Swords in all of these decks. You get to put Rampant Growth. Oh, all of my ramp gets to be 2 mana, Rampant Growth, 3 visits, whatever the other one is, that Nature's Blossom or whatever that gets to like a forest. It's like, yeah, finding a way to restrict that for people, I think is quite good. I think is kind of quite effective. And so I don't know. I like that. I like that for us. I like that for the game sort of. Quite a lot. I have no idea if I will end up. The one thing I was thinking about. I think a lot of people have thought about this because it is the #1 most made deck on the list is Wits the Bibliophile. Wits the Bibliophile says a deck with this commander has no maximum size and then has an activated ability to tap, draw a card, and gain a life. This ability is 3 less if you had 200 or more cards in your starting deck. I absolutely am going to make a Wits deck, but I feel like mine is going to be different than anybody's else's. I just want to make like a generic. I want to make like a Azorius Good Stuff deck with just a commander that comes out and draws an extra card every turn. Like that's awesome. Great. That's all I need. I draw 2 cards per turn. I gain a tiny little bit of life. And having a 3-mana commander in those colors who will come out and start drawing me cards every turn is like a good enough for them. There are a lot of people who want to make Battle of Wits. I hate that. I think that's I kind of think that Wits should have a thing that says, I kind of think Wits should say, a deck with this commander has no maximum deck size, but you cannot search your life.
No.
Trinket Mage has a tweet that says, if you play Wits with a 500, it's like if you play Wits with a deck size of 500 and crack a fetch land, I'm gonna that's sort of how I feel about it. You should just never be able to shuffle your library. Shuffling your library is when you have Wits, as your commander, but whatever.
Nobody. I'm going to build a Wits deck that is just stacks until I can draw into Battle of Wits and figure out a way to shove my graveyard back into my into my library. And I'm not, and I'm going to I'm going to conform to your rules. So I'm just going to straight draw to it, right? Like, if it's card 430, we're sitting here for 5 hours. Sorry.
Yeah, I have been looking at a lot of Azorius commanders. I think the most recent time I got proxies. Actually, the time before this, when we did a proxy order for packs, I got like 3 Mardu. I was doing a lot of Mardu stuff. And I was just like, wow, am I just really like sort of feeling this? Or I think right now I'm really feeling Azorius. There's a lot of Azorius commanders that I have been sort of looking to put together. There's a couple in here that I think are one that I wanted to just mention, that I think is flying a little bit more under the actually. First is Jandor Fortune Traveler, who turns each beast, camel, horse, elephant, and wolf into a mount in addition to its other types, and it has saddle too. And it says whenever a saddle creature you control attacks, it gains +2. You draw a card and create a food token. I have wanted to make a beast tribal deck for the longest time. I just think big beasts are sweet and fun, and I will probably do this with that commander. We will make beast tribal, and it will be all about beasts saddling beasts and riding into combat and that. And then the other one that I think this is a really clever Olinda the Oblivious, the skunk, the 4-mana skunk rogue. Whenever a Olinda enters or attacks, for each opponent, you put an odor counter on up to one target creature that player controls without an odor counter on it. Each of those creatures has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life for as long as it has an odor counter on it. I think Olinda Proliferate is so funny, and I will want to make the fuck out of the deck. Like the idea that I am finding you know, somebody is playing whatever, just some stupid deck, okay? And I just load up their best creature with like 4 odor counters, and I'm just like, got a real stinky boy there, Josh. If I could ever say those words, that specific sentence, I think my life will be so I will probably make this mono black, Olinda the Oblivious Prolific deck.
Excellent. Um, yeah, I don't know if I've got like the other one that stuck out to me was Itazura the Lingering Wick. At the beginning of your upkeep, each exile the top 3 cards of your library. Each opponent secretly chooses number 0 or greater. Then those numbers are revealed. Choose an opponent with the highest number. This unit deals that much damage to them. Then they may cast a spell from among those cards without paying its mana cost. You put a card from among them that wasn't cast away into your hand. That is like the perfect Jeff card, right? Like that might even like that is just like so perfect for that deck. So
I think we could do Immortal Itazura.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that is like a really neat. I love little mini games. People really hate Wheel of Misfortune, right? Which is an incredibly complicated card. But it basically boils down to each person secretly chooses a number. The person who chooses the highest number takes damage equal to the amount of the number that they chose. The person who puts the lowest number does not wheel. Everyone else wheels, right? I just think mini games are fucking fun. Like we played it the other day at Ray's house. We played a game with Josh on Seardon. I lost that game horrendous, destroyed us, right? That Seardon game is great. The voting is super fun. There's this little like mini game to it. I think I played that game like I think I should have I think the real tack is to kind of just like vote for the same person every fucking time, right? Like, and you just try and like settle into like, oh, Buddy is going to vote for Josh every time. Mango's going to vote for Ray every time, and eventually you kind of like settle it all out.
I think the answer is to do some politics rather than just like immediately going to the voting phase, right? Like be like,
oh, interesting, yeah.
Like like talk about
or like betray people. I like the idea of betraying people.
That's what like part of the politics is, right? Like you talk about what you're going to do and maybe don't necessarily do it, but like having a little bit of table talk there, I think would have like made it a little bit more interesting because instead of just like doing like raw guessing game theory, right? It's like, oh, I'll vote for him and you vote for him, and then everything will be copacetic. I think I like part of why I won that game was because I got to put the fucking 7-mana dinosaur on the table for free, right? Like
Well, Josh wheeled all of my removal. I had removal both for the dinosaur. Well, maybe the dinosaur.
I redirected your removal for the dinosaur.
Oh right, yeah. So yeah, I tried to kill the dinosaur, and then the other thing, enchantment removal for your storm or whatever. But before I got to use it, Josh windmilled or windfalled or whatever, and so I lost my enchantment into the graveyard, or my enchantment removal into the graveyard, and I was like, oh fuck, I can't get rid of this thing that lets you just cast a thing for free every turn. And I think it was that like mana advantage. Boy, I played basically the worst deck possible. I played the worst deck possible twice. That one was the Frodo and Sam deck is like weenies. It's kind of like white weenies in a way. Like I just kind of don't have a top end on that deck. Like there's a Treebeard card, I think for 5 mana, and like a couple of Planeswalkers, but I actually think the Planeswalkers are 4 mana. It just doesn't have like a bit, like I don't have big splashy things that I can be like, oh, I'm gonna win the game because I dropped this, right? Like the best drop that I had was like a feature. And then the other game that we played, I played Barakos into Animar, who has protection from white and black, which meant that I just couldn't interact with Ray's deck. or block his thing, and Animar became a 40-40. I'm coming for you. And I said, yeah, I can't do shit. You got me. Like,
yeah, I think the way for you to, like, with the voting thing there is just vote for yourself, right? Like,
just
see if you
drop
can soak up
cards.
some draws, right? Like, or use it as an opportunity to ramp or something, right? Like,
I have thought about that with Sirdon. I've thought of, like, if I just vote for myself maybe what I do is I create a false sense of everybody sees that I'm just voting, and eventually I can be like, now I tactically vote for one of you, and I get to drop something because I have drawn the bomb, right? And I now get to do whatever. But the problem is leaving somebody to just drop a permanent is real rough.
yeah,
That is a rough set of circumstances. But who knows? We'll play with that Sirdon deck again. I think that deck is sweet.
yeah. No, it's super fun. But yeah. Um, did you want to talk about you mentioned something about like playing with randos and not having the greatest time?
I did have I just want to explain this, this thing. I played with this guy. So, friend of the cast. How specific do I want to be about this? I guess not that specific. I'm about to shit on somebody really hard. I was playing some online Commander, which is something I do, a variety of groups of people. I just have friends who will bring me into spell table-ish sort of games, which I don't mind doing that on Saturday. It's typically fun. But boy, did I deal with maybe the guy who I would say has sort of the worst possible kind of attitude, where like they're sort of treating, the game of Magic and Commander as, can I, like, not predict, but just sort of that the game state is a predictable sort of thing, and there is always an optimal play, and everyone kind of agrees, which I think is a certain subset brand. I think all of us sort of play a level of this in Commander sometimes. And so he always knew who the threat was. He was talking assessment. Yeah, you should attack this, you shouldn't attack that kind of thing. And at a certain point in the game, I had an okay board position. I had a pretty good board position. And he had, to be clear, royally fucked me a couple of times, right? I played my Seton deck. That deck went off. I played like 8 druids. I kind of whiffed on a big spell. And all I needed was to kind of untap, and I would have had another big turn. I could cycle a bunch of draws or whatever. And he demonic tutored for a toxic deluge to wipe my board, right? And leave me with no resources, which is like completely fine play. Good, you got me. I had no backup. I didn't hold anything in hand. Whatever. But there was this point where Alex, he was playing a mono black kind of ramp control deck that was playing a lot of effects about like Nykthos trying to Nyx and Cabal coffers that were about generating explosively huge amounts of mana. And then he had a commander that said X black target creature gets +0 -0 -X, so you can kill something, and then your commander gets +X +0, so gets a ton of attack, right? And we just kind of kept killing his like mana rocks and stuff like that. And he was sort of doing like I'm just a little guy, I'm just a little guy argument, because we all understood that his ability to generate 20 mana was very bad for us. And so we were blowing up these like mana artifacts or whatever. And there was a point where I was in a pretty good position. It looked like I might, right? And I guess I am just gonna use it. Friend of the cast, Alex, used a piece of removal against him, and he's like, "What's the logic there?" And Alex is like, "Well, I know what happens when you bring this commander out. I really want to make sure this thing is off the board." I think he destroyed an enchantment, and he was like, "Okay, but like clearly you see that like Buddy has this like big thing," and I was just like, "Yeah, I mean I do see that, but." He just went, you guys figure it out. There's 2 more turns before it's back to his untap step. I'm killing your thing or whatever. And the guy just went, I don't see the logic. And afterwards, I was just like, if anybody ever did that in our friend group, we would relentlessly bully this person into oblivion. Could you imagine if somebody were to say, I don't see the logic in this. Like any tiny morsel of salt that comes out just gets relentlessly. It's like blood in the water. You know what I mean? Like, and it reminds me of just like I was playing with Xavier once, and some of Xavier's friends. I told this, yeah, I think on the podcast, or maybe not on the podcast. I was playing once with Xavier and some of his friends, and his commander had been killed twice. He tapped all the way out, like 9 of his 10 mana to bring his commander back out, and somebody said it would be a real shame if they got swords. And he was like, "Don't you dare. I'm going to scoop if you kill this commander." And so somebody played the swords. He had a piece of interaction to like hexproof it or whatever. And then somebody, I think it was Xavier, was like, "It'd be a shame if it got bathed," and then bathed it on top. And he just disconnected from the Discord call. Oh, that was so funny. And I just like, there's something to this that that I thought was so funny. And then I like wanted to almost say for the record, it's funny. Like, yes, I think that Magic, there's some amount of this like threat assessment. There are times where I lose games of Magic where I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, you got me. I was the threat. When we played our first game, I was playing Quintorius. I was certainly the threat. People were going for me pretty hard, killing Quintorius, all this other sort of stuff. I ended up winning that game. I think that was like fair. Like when my stuff was getting blown up, I was like, sure, you got me. Fair enough. But there's also a version of Magic where I hate, want to ruin. And that tension, I think, is
in that same night, right when I was playing Valakut, where Ray was clearly the threat. I'm just like, I'm gonna kill your stuff, Josh. Right? Like
that also was extremely funny. Yes, yeah, I think you're right. And Josh was like, "Why are you doing this to me?" And you were like, "Because it's funny." Like, oh,
because of the number of times I have had a winning board state, and you have wiped the board out of spite.
Sarian has said this, that like he will sometimes just like pick enemies. There was one game where I think Sarian and Frank were playing or something, and I think Sarian misplayed something or played something sort of wrong, and Frank made a comment about it, about how like that was a suboptimal play, or he should have done this. And the whole rest of that game, all Sarian did was try and kill Frank. You know what I mean? Or like the game where you stole my commander on this brand new deck and gave it to Frank, and the whole deck was about the commander. All I wanted to do was kill you. I was like, I need to kill Mango. I've never hated anybody more in my life. Hopefully, I think that's fun. I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think that actually it is good sometimes. Fucking hate your
Oh
friends.
man, that was like the Ariat deck, right? Like that pulled aggro harder than anything I've ever played.
Oh my god.
Like both like Josh sitting there like, maybe I will kill Buddy and Ryan, and Rachel's like, no, we are killing Mango. He keeps stealing.
That game I think was a really excellent game of Commander.
Yeah.
I don't think Frank will ever forgive me for killing you guys. But like, I don't know. I don't feel bad about that at all. I think a lot about dishonor and skullduggery, right? Like I have thrown games because of deals. Oh, I could win the game here, but I made the deal and I pass the turn and I lose because the deal is more important or whatever. But that was one of those games where I made a very specific deal. I would not counter the board wipe that I otherwise would have countered. If, whatever, you guys wiped the board, I saved my whole, clapped you back, like, you make a better deal next time, okay?
I was gonna say, I feel like I had a point here. I'm sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought. I apologize.
So listen, the politics of Magic the Gathering are fun sometimes. That's what it comes down to.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I've been like ruminating on like our pod meta for a while, right? And like to your point, right? Like the things that I've like kind of come down on are like, the right way to play against Ryan is to not poke him, because like if you poke him a little bit, he will decide that it is his mission to destroy you, even when it doesn't make sense, and it just kind of derails you, right?
Yeah.
And so, the other one, and sorry, I don't think you listen to this podcast, but kill Josh, right? Like, Josh, like Josh,
I think I agree with that.
run strong decks, and two will like do things for either spite or lulls that will just like completely wreck your board state, regardless of like kind of like the like previous like camaraderie of the board or whatever, right? I will put into this like there was that time that he like reneged on a deal and you didn't let him forget about it for like 3 months or whatever.
Oh my
Right?
God, yeah. Well, it's because he did the thing that I just described, right? Which is that we made a deal that he would not attack me on his next turn, and he drew a card that was a game-winning card if he attacked me, broke the deal to like sort of game. And I will never forget us for that. For the record, I still think it is, it is a permanent black mark of dishonor on someone, right? But I did, in fact, for maybe 2 or 3 months afterwards, relentlessly target. I actually still think I have residual, like, odds are if I have a 2-drop and an open board, I'm gonna swing at Josh, which I think is kind of like, I'll just never forgive. I'll never forgive that he broke that deal with me.
But that kind of mindset, which like from
Yeah.
an objective point of view, I get it, right? It's like the deal is only as good until it's only as good as far as it. Like if I can win the game in one shot, like breaking the deal is. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it, right? But I think that kind of attitude is why you can't like trust him long term in the politics of a game, right? And why he's like a prime candidate for elimination. And the third thing that I've been thinking about quite a bit is like you can kind of ignore Frank because he plays way too conservatively.
Oh, I do also sort of agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I actually think that Frank and I have a little bit of that. I think Frank says thinks the exact same thing that sort of you think about Josh in a way with me. Like, I think I can play Takesha much safer on against anybody else, but if Frank is in the pod, he will kill Takesha immediately. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think he just sort of always sort of sees me in a deep way as the threat, which, fair enough. I think that is sort of reasonable. So
yeah. No, like you are very deck dependent, right? Like, listen when in doubt, attack Mango because I hold a grudge for forever. And Jeff took all my force that one time 80 years ago. You know what?
The funny part to me is like, oh man, Jeff gets so much aggro. I love Jeff. I think Jeff is so fun, but I don't know. Maybe it's just like the way
So
I
my
will never
brother,
the Jeff cards against it.
my brother, this is going to be a little bit of a walk. My brother has this thing called like type 1 versus type 2 fun, right? Type 1 fun is fun in the moment. Type 2 fun is like grueling when it happens, but fun afterwards, right? Like this is like, like summoning a mountain or something, right? I
Yeah.
think Jeff is type 2 fun. I think like it's great to
Okay.
tell stories about Jeff games after the fact, but resolving like a possibility storm, Guthrie writes history is like, what the fuck are we doing? We spent an hour to resolve this card, right? Like,
That's true. Yeah. Listen, Frank is a really good player. Lou
yeah,
says in the chat, Frank catching spray. Frank is a really good player. I actually think kind of everybody is pretty good players.
yeah,
And I am typically pretty happy about sort of like going up against everybody. But yeah, I don't know. There are also some days where the funny part with you individually, I also dependent. There's some decks I didn't play last night because I was like, oh god, do I want to play this against Mango? Like, no.
yeah. And to be clear, this is not like me saying that Frank's a bad, but this is like I feel like I can leave my like if Frank has a threat untapped, I can ignore it more often than I would with somebody else because he's more likely to not use the threat to hold it as a defensive option. And I think he like that's why I mean like I think he's too conservative. And this is a lesson I learned. I actually learned that first time we really played Commander at PAX, right? Where you were playing Eureka and I was playing AC, right? And I was holding up I could have won earlier than I did, but I was holding back too much and just waiting for, like an unbeatable board state to just kind of swing out and crush everybody. And it's like, oh, I need to be playing more aggressively than this. And I think Frank never kind of learned that lesson is maybe the way I'd put it. I think he needs to, Frank, if you're listening, you need to swing out more. You need to hit more people in the face. But maybe
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that we have gotten a little bit more cutthroat. I was thinking about this on Friday, specifically because just the bloodthirsty move. I don't know that I have ever made such a rat fuck move as Josh is playing Corona. Corona's whole thing is about getting passed around the table, and he I I I think you saw it, Josh, if you're listening to the podcast, and I recognize that you saw it, but like handing me Corona was a death sentence. Like I don't think that deck does anything else. I think it's just like it's an artifact of the seating, right? Where I happened to be playing to Josh's left. I was going to take the next turn after Josh. I was playing a token deck that was going to generate a lot of tokens of the same creature type that Corona could buff all of them, and that I could use Quintorius to give them all double strike. But I just, as soon as I got it, I was like, there's no way on earth where I am the clear threat, okay, do I let Josh live and let Corona get passed around the table so that the next 3 turns of the night are people swinging into me with that Corona, right? And so the thing that I did was just blow Josh, just kill Josh, you know what I mean? But it felt so bloodthirsty and shitty to do that, especially because that game went on for another 45 minutes or something, and somebody's just going to be sitting there like not playing, not having fun, and that does sort of suck.
Yeah, but that's that's the nature of the beast, right? Like
That's the nature of the beast, isn't it? Just
yeah. But Commander's fun.
Commander's fun. I don't know what else happened. Do you want to talk about the Odyssey at all?
I will hold off.
Save it all. Okay.
I will hold off until next week.
That seems good. I just want to say this for the record. I watched Fantastic Four: The First Steps, the Fantastic Four movie from a couple of years ago, I guess. Maybe it was last year. I don't even. Yeah, from last year. I don't care. I don't know. It was fine. But they did Galactus, and it's kind of crazy, and it's a little bit neat. You have not watched this movie. Am I okay? It's a little bit neat. The thing that's coolest about it is that it's a retrofuturistic sort of world, because they're doing this like they had done some of this in sort of like the trailer branding. I did not quite realize how hard they were pulling this all the way through. But it's just sort of like like a modern era, but where sort of like 60s aesthetics kind of like never went away, never died. There's this whole plot point about them like distilling the vocal tones of the Silver Surfer, and they are printing it onto a vinyl, which I really appreciated. I was like, what a neat little detail that that is. There's kind of no computers, even though there are. Anyway, I liked it. I thought that was fun. I thought that was funny. And who knows? Maybe I will care about a day. I don't know. We'll see. Are they going to get me back?
Yeah, I bought tickets to get a promo card, so there's a magic card.
A promo card?
If I posted this in the chat, if you see it the first weekend at Regal Theaters, you get a promo Doom card.
What Doctor Doom? Is it a good card? What Doctor Doom card do I get if I watch Avengers Doomsday? Oh, is it the Doomsday one? The one that works with Doomsday? Dr. Doom, King of Latveria. Because I have seen this one.
I forget.
Oh no, this is different. Okay, never mind. Maybe I don't care. Whenever you discard one or more land cards, each opponent loses 2 life at the bet on your turn. Target villain you control gains menace until end of turn and connives.
I don't remember. I just remember being like, oh, there's this is a card, right? Like, this is a thing, and so we will all be seeing this to get the promo card, right? Like, it's you know what? They didn't, when I looked at it, they didn't say what it was. They just said there's a promo card. And so I was like, that means I'm getting it, right? Like, it's like the blank, I don't know if it's any good or not. I was just like, free magic card. Go get tickets.
Free magic card.
Yeah. Was it? One other thing before we get out of here.
Yeah.
So have you remember me talking to you about a game called Arcs?
ARKS?
ARCS. It's a board game.
ARCS board game.
Okay. I have been hearing great things about this game for like weeks now, right? So like, you know what? Maybe I want to like see about picking up this game, right? And so it's like, it's like weirdly sold out, and you have to get it like through like either a third party reseller.
Oh, is this the Root game?
That's the thing I found out, is that it is made by the same people that made Root, and so I feel like I can draw you in. It's supposed to be very, very good. It came
Okay.
out 2 years ago. So I have ordered
Funnily
a couple.
enough, I want to play Root is the other thing, because the only reason it's on my mind is a new expansion just came out, that adds in like 3 new factions, frogs. I can't remember, frogs, bats, and something. And it just like made me think about Root again for the first time in a long time. And I want to make this happen. I think Root is fun. It's also the kind of thing that I think like bleeds over. Like Root, I sort of think is like Commander, but like without all the math, right? Like it's the kind of Commander that we could get Carol, because you don't have to do that much math. It's just cards. Like,
And it's
does this
fuzzy
card
woodland
match that card?
creatures.
And it's fuzzy woodland creatures. You know, who doesn't love a good fuzzy?
Have you played? I think it's called Oaths. It's the game that isn't Arcs or Root by, it's like Big Giant Games or something like that.
I have not.
Uh,
Change the course of history.
it's Oath, yeah.
Yeah, Oath. I see.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I just also know it's the other game. But Arcs I've heard excellent things about. I have, like I said, ordered. So apparently there is the game is like a space game with trick taking, and like the base game is like a skirmish level game. And then there's an expansion that is bigger and more expensive than the base game. That is like a whole campaign. And it kind of like has like Stellaris feel to it, because like you get like these leaders, and in the campaign version of the game, your first leader has like an objective, and if you don't finish it, you get a new leader in the second game, and then in the third, like you play across 3 games, and in the third game you can get like a C leader. And the thing there is that the C leaders, if they accomplish their objectives, they just win outright. So the thing that this review I was talking about, it's like part of the gameplay is like making sure enough like that there's not that many people that don't accomplish their objectives in the first and second game. So if you have a bunch of C leaders, you're probably not going to win, because it's just like the theme is supposed to be like the space empire disintegrating because there's too much chaos, right? You need to keep things ordered enough so that everybody like has like a reasonable shot of winning in the third phase, right? And so that like anybody who's carrying through can coordinate to stop this C leader, right?
Is
From
it
pushing.
sea leader like letter C, or sea leader
Yes,
like
letter C, letter C.
from the oceans, but also in space? Okay,
No, letter C. Because like there's 3 games, 1, 2, 3. So it's like A leaders, B leaders, and C leaders. Because like they're you can't get all the leaders in all the phases. Like the leaders you can get in the third game are a different set of leaders than the earlier ones.
Yeah.
And they all have their own micro games. It looks super fascinating. Like I've only watched a review. I have not actually played it yet, but I have ordered it, so I will play Roots. I will play Root. We should play this Arcs at some point.
I theoretically, I sort of think there's a world where we of Magic just by playing these looking boards, right? Like I think that, you know, maybe there's a world. I've been thinking about because of all of the Root stuff, where I was looking at it and I was sort of like, Root and Commander are very similar in the sense that like there's a lot of different like permutations, very asymmetrical, but it's king making, you know, kind of board game. People are taking their turns kind of thing. And I definitely could see a version of things where we just sort of like end up playing, like we get super hooked on this or any of these other kinds of games, and it just ends up being the thing that we, oh, let's play Root. Let's play Root instead of let's play Commander. And anyway, I don't know. That would be a cheaper version of my life, so I'd be down for that, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to play Root tomorrow, I'd be down.
True.
All right. Well, we've gone almost 2 hours. I think we're good. I think we've made up for our delinquents. If you'd like to email us about anything we talk about in this podcast, you can email us at gmail.com or podcast@derpsplaygames.com. There's a new Some Derps Play Games website. I will fully admit it is vibe coded and hosted on ChatGPT's sites function. But it is cheaper than the fucking Squarespace site that I maintained for like 5 years to just, Squarespace was apparently charging me like close to $300 a year for our site that literally was just the embed of the
That's incredible. Wow. Holy fuck.
well, so the thing is I wasn't really using the Squarespace feature. Like when I first started it, I was like, oh, we will eventually turn this into a whole thing, right? It will not just be this podcast. There will be other things, and then nothing else ever happened. Which is as my fault as anyone else. But I was able to say, like, Codex, do a website, feel free to improvise. And it, like, all that, like 90% of the copy on that thing is like stuff it came up with, right? Like, you know, it's very sarcastic, which I enjoy, right? It's like, you know, like a podcast somehow, right? Like, you know, and so I know that, you know, AI is controversial in some spaces, but it's free. You know, it cost me the cost of my ChatGPT subscription, which I already had, for my own professional reasons. But you know, rate, reviews, wherever you find podcasts. All links down in the description. Buddy, you have anything you're looking to promote?
I guess buy Montabi. Play Montabi.
Play Montabi. It's great.
Play Montabi.
No AI on Montabi. There we go. Until next time, dear listeners.
Until next time, loyal listeners.